Welcome to day 4 of the Pleasurepreneur pathway. Today will be the yummiest day. Today is also probably the day where a lot of your stuff will come up and you will probably feel it will probably feel less pleasurable. Maybe oh so not pleasurable at all. And chances are you'll probably want to avoid this part of the process. All right? This is the part of the process, right? So now you've got your offer, you know who your ideal client is. Now's the part where you get to share your offer, right? Now's the part where you get to put it out in the world and it then can connect with that ideal client, right? This is the selling part. But the problem arises when when we all have lots of interesting ideas and interesting thoughts and beliefs around selling, what selling means, or even marketing, like selling and marketing. Like there will be things that we perceive to be true about selling and marketing that we carry with us that, of course, will come up for us when we go to start selling, and that will feel really uncomfortable. It will feel really uncomfortable. And that discomfort that we feel in our body, we want to not feel that. So we will do everything we can to avoid that. Now, what that looks like is I've got probably like 3 top things that I've seen from my own experience and also from that with my clients. And I'd say you probably have an experience of like one or more of these things as well when it comes to selling. If you don't feel excited to sell your offering, if you don't feel like excited to sell, like it brings you pleasure, then chances are you're doing one of these things. Now, the first thing is you're doing anything and everything but selling, right? You're doing lots of stuff that's keeping you busy. So in your mind, you're thinking, I'm working, I'm doing what needs to be done, you know, and then I'm not creating the results of making sales, calling in these beautiful clients, making more money for myself and my family. And so it's like, well, then we start to kind of think, well, why bother? It's obviously just me, or some version of that. We go into kind of almost this, we would prefer to make ourselves wrong and make it not worth it and make it mean a whole range of different things, perhaps about ourselves or about our offering or about our industry or anything in particular. We'd prefer to do that than feel the discomfort of selling what it is that we have to offer the world. Yeah. So if you feel like, oh, fuck, I am doing so much work, but I'm not creating the results, I'm not making the income I want to make, chances are you are probably doing a bunch of things that look like perhaps like content creation. Now, like obviously we want to use content creation as part of a way to sell as well, but you might be doing lots of things where you're just keeping yourself busy. Maybe you're doing lots of content, but you're not actually selling in your content. Maybe you're going to lots of, networking opportunities, but you're not actually talking about your work at these times. Maybe you're doing a lot of like maybe client like consult calls or some version of that, like where people want to come to you and ask about your work, but you're not actually selling in those calls, right? Chances are you're doing all the work that makes you busy and feeling tired, but you're doing so much with not getting much outcome. Yeah. The other thing is what I call noble manipulation. And I'm kind of laughing at myself here because this was one that I really kind of honed in with, where we think that, now I just want to say up front, which I shared in the Voxer earlier today, that it is not intentional manipulation. In fact, you're so averse to manipulation that you're actually doing the manipulation, right? You don't want to be manipulating people into buying your thing. You don't want to feel like you've got this energy of convincing people or being the hard salesperson or being pushy, right? Because that feels like manipulation to you. But what you can end up then doing is actually manipulating. So that might look like feeling as though you need to have an allocated amount of posts on Instagram or Reels where you're sharing content and value and inspiration without selling, feeling like I can't sell yet. I need to do X amount of inspiring posts first, or not inviting someone to a consult call with you or talking about your work with someone because you feel like you need to have a certain amount of interactions with them first. You need to build a certain kind of relationship with them first. Even though you've gotten the inspiration to tell them, or you know that you can help them by what they've told you, but you don't say anything yet. Right? Like this is where where it gets really icky, like our energy, it's not clear energy. It's like the kind of energy of like manipulation, right? And we are doing this out of like good intentions, but it is actually manipulation nonetheless. So what we're doing is we're kicking the can down the road, right? We're not selling when we are getting the desire to, when we're seeing the opportunity to, when someone is letting us know, basically, they're sharing with you that you could help them in this, but you're not saying anything because you feel like you need to, you know, put more kind of tallies up before you can sell. Yeah. And the other one that I've noticed, which is quite prominent, is feeling like you need to like offload the selling, like hand on that responsibility to, say, another person or a certain kind of formula or strategy or framework. Right. So that might look like you going, okay, well, actually what I need to do, because I'm not making the money I want to be making, because I'm not signing the clients I want to be signing, I obviously then need to go and do Facebook ads. So then you go off and do a course about making Facebook ads. And then you think, okay, well, it's not that yet because like that didn't do it. So I'm actually going to go now and I need to work on my SEO, right? Like I'm going to do an SEO course and a training and like do that, you know? And that's not to say like you shouldn't be like upskilling and like learning more. But if you are not creating the results you want to be creating, and you are really just constantly like doing one course after another, or like taking on something from the outside rather than taking on the responsibility to sell your offer that came from you and your desires, and you're the person who's going to be working with your clients, right? When we offload that responsibility, that's another way we avoid selling. That's another way we avoid that discomfort that can come up. And the thing is, there is no other way through this, right? There is no way to get better at selling. There is no way to get better at making money and signing your ideal clients than actually selling. And what that looks like is it could be an array of things, depending on what feels aligned for you. But ultimately, what I'm talking about when I'm saying selling, it is saying, you have this problem, or have this desire, or you want to create this result. I can help you with that. This is what you need to do to come and work with me. Yeah. That's like your call to action. Ultimately, that's all it is. There's like 3 key pieces to selling, which is connecting with someone, letting them know that you can help them is number 2, which obviously, in fact, you're only going to step number 2 if you can help them, right? Again, I'm assuming we're all having the best of intentions here. So number 1 is connecting with someone, number 2, letting them know you can help them. And number 3, offering to help them. That's all it is. Right? But because of a lifetime of ingrained ideas and beliefs and interesting ideas, we've attached so much meaning, so many different kinds of meaning to that very simple process, right? And all it's doing is prolonging our results and prolonging the help that you can be giving the clients that need it right now. You know, where's my drink? Here. Does anyone have any questions right now? No. Can you guys let me know in the chat, or you can jump on it here as well. Tell me, like, out of those 3 things I talked about, so doing anything and everything to avoid selling, but keeping yourself busy, the noble manipulation, number 2, or number 3 is like kind of passing on that responsibility, feeling like you've got to get someone else's formula or like do another course and learn about SEO. Like, out of those 3 things, which one do you feel like is the thing that holds you back from selling the most? And if it's none of those things and there's something else, share it with me.
For me, I don't think it's any of those. I think it's something else. And again, remember in the first session, I brought that up. It's only when it comes to my own skills. I'm happy to sell everyone else's service as $50,000 for 3 months container. So I think my excuse is people don't have money in the current climate for that type of service.
Yeah.
And it could be any service that I offer, right? If that's the birth support, positive mindset, motherhood, because it's about me. If I had to sell someone else's service as an employee that was worth $50,000, I have no excuse.
Yeah. So what you're speaking to there is like one of your thoughts and beliefs, right? So what we want to, how does that then represent itself like in your physical day-to-day? So do you then avoid selling? And what does it look like? How do you avoid selling?
Yes, sorry, but probably usually talking about other stuff. But not because I don't feel like I know I'm a great salesperson. I love selling.
Yes.
But I avoid it for the reason that I just mentioned. And then keep myself busy with the other things.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you say like selling other things or talking, you said, sorry, talking about other things. So would that look like, for example, being on Instagram? And I've done this lots myself, like sharing a lot of my life, and then realizing like I've been on Instagram every day for the last 2 to 3 weeks and I haven't once spoken about what I can help you with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So that's super common. So that's like basically number one. Like you're doing all the things, but you're not actually selling. Yeah. And the reason we do that is from those stories, those subconscious stories. Yeah. Which we'll dive into. And how about you, Cass? Do you feel like you relate with any of those three or something else?
I'm not sure which one I fit in. I think prior to this course, I was like, I've always been like, I don't really want or need money. And then just recently, I'm like, actually, I would really like to be that. I want that. And that's, I think, the biggest calling that called me into this. And that's so cool because you've been talking about that. So I was like, yes, please. So that's been really nice and just validating of like, okay, cool. Like I now want money. Like I want that. And that's what I'm going to do. And then my biggest kind of blocker for letting my latest thing out into the world was that I wasn't clear on my ideal client. And I was quite frightened of like penguin men in suits. And like, I'm not interested in working with penguin men. Nothing, it's not personal. It is personal. I don't want to work with them. And then yesterday when you're like, well, you are allowed to choose who your ideal client is, I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Well, this is what I want to work with. And I just would say no to anyone else. And that's okay. And taking away that fear of what if people want to be in my energy and do I just have to say yes, but I don't have to say yes. So I'm not sure what is kind of holding, like I think I've just started like those baby steps of the money was holding me back, the not wanting, like the fear of all my, like I don't want or I don't need money. And then the fact that I wasn't quite clear on my ideal client and I was a bit frightened of who that was. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what kind of category that fits in, but that's kind of where I was at and where I'm kind of like now at.
Yeah. Okay. So it will ideally, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. It doesn't so much matter about like identifying like how you avoid selling, but it's just good to know. I feel like when we can see like, oh, I'm doing that thing again where I'm doing everything else but selling. Yeah. So you might find you're a different kind of mix, one of those, all of them. Anyway, as we go. But ultimately, when we can, we're going to keep going with that kind of pattern until we start to heal our relationship with selling and with money. And again, like there is already so many cracks there from just being a woman in this world, and especially then a whole nother layer if you're a mother as well, as I talked about earlier. Where are those? I need to share with you guys. I'll put it in the Voxer, those 10 top stories, those 10 top thoughts. Because when you read them, you're like, oh, like this is what has, like, if you had been told these 10 top thoughts every day your entire life, you're going to believe them, right? So then, of course, when it comes to making money and selling, you're going to be like, oh, but like, I'm not supposed to want this, right? Like, we scaffold our whole life around what we have come across in our life. You know, we've scaffolded our life, and this goes for anything, not just like, you know, money and selling, but any thoughts that we have, any beliefs, any thoughts that we've believed to be true, we've then scaffold our life around that. And it's not until we kind of have these moments, like you said earlier, Cass, where you've gone like, oh, actually, I've just realized I want money and I want to make money, and that's okay. You know, it doesn't mean all these other things about me. Yeah. So it is a process. Absolutely. Like, I would love, it would be so great if I could say, okay, today, everybody, tell me what your fears are. Tell me what these thoughts are. I'll provide you with a reframe. Now go off and you're sorted, right? Then I feel like then everyone would, it would be so easy to sell and make money, right? But it is a process. And this is what we will be doing in that 5 months in the mastermind, right? This is what I do with my clients. We look at what those thoughts are, and it's not always the same one. There's usually a lovely collection of them, and we work out what to do with them. Yeah, like we create those mindset shifts. So I'm going to just check in the chat here. I see someone. Okay, Anna, you've popped them in. Oh, thanks, Anna. You put the 10 thoughts here. Okay, I'm going to say them out loud because it's going to be great to have on the replay as well. So this is what I did. So I had recently been searching like online for articles about like what society believes about women and money. Yeah, and ultimately to get a really good idea of like what the societal voice is, what we've been socialized to believe about money and women, right? And then I ended up putting into Chat GPT something along the lines of like, what are the top 10 beliefs around women and money? Some version of that. And this is what came up. Women should prioritize family over career. Men are natural breadwinners. Women are less capable in finance. Women who seek wealth are unfeminine. Successful women are lonely. Women are naturally more nurturing. Women spend rather than invest. Financial success is incompatible with motherhood. Ouch. Women do not need as much money, and women's earnings are supplementary, right? So we have our partner to supplement our earnings, right? So I just want to be really clear. They are nothing about what I believe to be true about women and money. This is what basically we've been presented as, and what's been modeled to us, what we have received either directly or indirectly from the media, from other conversations, from what we've been brought up learning, you know? And so, of course, it makes complete and utter total sense as to why we feel uncomfortable when it comes to desiring money and selling for money. Yeah. When it comes to us being like, oh, I've only been like selling it for like 1/10 of what I actually think it's worth. Yeah. And I want to increase my prices or something along the lines. So I want you to know this, because I want you to know that, like, number one, it is absolutely normal for you to be a woman selling your services and feeling fucking uncomfortable. Right? There's nothing wrong with you if you feel uncomfortable. Number two, it also doesn't mean that you are greedy or selfish or a bad person. I want you to separate these kind of thoughts and these beliefs that we've internalized from who you are. Chances are, from what I know to be true, is that the experience I've had with women who feel this discomfort about selling because they don't want to come across as superficial or greedy or like focused on money, or what was the other one? Like basically not prioritizing their family and the things that matter to them most, right? Like the women who feel such discomfort because of these thoughts are the women who are the complete opposite of that. You know, they are not at all greedy. They're so generous. They're not at all superficial. They do prioritize a bunch of other things over money, right? And they don't want to be misunderstood by selling. They don't want to be misunderstood by asking for money for their own services, by being compensated for their time and energy that they are taking away from their family and the people that matter to them most, right? It's just, yeah. So I'm going to leave that there. So that is a lot of what we take on. And this is what it looks like then for us to then start selling. This is why we feel so uncomfortable. This is the work that we do, right? To start to get really comfortable with selling and knowing the value of what we have to offer and knowing the cost for our clients or potential clients, would-be clients, if we didn't sell, right? We can be so focused on ourselves and being like, oh, I don't want to come across as selfish and greedy. Like, I don't want to like fill in the blank. But we're not considering the person who is missing out from us not selling, right? I want you to ask yourself the question of like, what does it cost my client if I don't sell? If I don't sell my offering, what does it cost them in the sense of they don't know that I can help them, so they don't get that help? Yeah, what would it look like for the first time pregnant mama who doesn't know what's coming, doesn't know what's ahead of her, doesn't have any supports lined up? Yeah, doesn't kind of have any information about the process of birth or fear or any of those kind of things, is going in completely blind and really doesn't have any of those structures to support herself. Like imagine how much of an impact you can create. Imagine the difference between perhaps where she might be headed and where you can help her get. Yeah, imagine what it would be like for the client who, you know, has kids with neurodiversity and they're having a hard time like understanding their kids, but they really, really want to, and they really want to be able to make accommodation for their kids, and they really want to be able to provide their kids with everything that's going to help them absolutely thrive. Yeah, imagine not selling to them and not giving them these tools that you already have. Like, I want you to get really clear about the cost that your potential clients, what cost is it to them if you don't sell? Let's stop making it about ourselves and start making it about them. Yeah. Okay. So can you guys share with me, like, what are some top 3 costs if you do not sell? If you don't if you don't sell what you have to offer and therefore can't have people work with you, what are the top 3 things that people are missing out on? What does it look like for them? What is the cost to them if you do not sell? You can either jump in here or you can pop it in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to jump on here. I think I'm the only one with a video on. Okay, so the cost is if they don't come and work with me, how I see my support, you know, structured is they have no freaking idea what to expect from birth. They're also not going to do the inner work that I'm going to do with them, the shadow work that no one else talks about. Yeah, if you just buy a little birth book to prepare for your birth, and it will impact the rest of their life, to be very dramatic. It will impact motherhood and the rest of their life if they don't work with me.
Yeah.
Because they're potentially, well, no, not potentially, they're at a much higher risk of having a birth experience that leaves them feeling disempowered, even if they've read the nice little book with the shiny pages that ticks the boxes. They haven't actually done the digging, and they haven't actually figured out what it is that they really need to know. And they're potentially going to have a really hard time in motherhood then, because if you don't deal with that shit, in preparation for your birth, it will be thrown and slapped all over your face eventually in birth or in motherhood.
Yeah, and both.
And both.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. How about you, Cass? Do you want to jump in with what maybe are the top 3 costs for your clients if you don't sell?
Yeah, sure. The missed opportunity for connection between adults and children.
What does that look like in a kind of tangible sense?
Kids being dysregulated and not feeling connected to themselves or to others in their environment. Missed opportunities for education.
I was going to say, I can imagine though, then if there's that missed opportunity for connection, like what that would feel like for the kids as well as like what it would feel like for the adults as well.
Yeah, like lifelong challenges, same as Anna. Like it could set the children that adults are around up for lifelong challenges without being able to be accommodated or having the like communication styles that they need, or the education that the parents or carers or support workers could have. And then for the adults as well, I suppose, like it's both. It's supporting the adults for their own personal development to see, same as Anna, like see their own shit, see their own shadows, and to work through whatever it is that's holding them back, so that they are able to be curious and connected and aligned and aware of the people around them and how they impact the people around them.
Yeah, exactly. So these are lifelong implications. These are really kind of heavy stuff that, you know, you can help them with. This is like, you have your genius zone that seems so like, it's stuff that you know back to front. Like, you could have a cuppa with anyone and like share all of this wisdom and work with them, right? And yet when we don't sell because we feel uncomfortable, we're gatekeeping those results for those people, you know, for our clients. Yeah. So I don't want to share this in the sense of like, you have to go and save the world. Right. But I just really want you to have this kind of clear picture from what's on the other side of you being like, oh, I feel uncomfortable selling. I don't want to look like I'm superficial or greedy, or, you know, I don't want to seem like a pushy, sleazy salesman. So I'm not going to sell. But there is a cost to that. There is a cost to you. It's going to cost your time, for starters. It's also going to cost the client's time, because they're going to waste all of this time trying to work the fuck out what's going on. Yeah. It's going to waste a lot of your energy and their energy. Yeah. And also it's going to waste a lot of money. Yeah. It's going to cost a lot of money trying to work out how to fix these things. I'm just going to read your message, Anna. Cass, another lifelong implication is the damage it does to the parent and child relationship. Once they're adults, they don't have to stick around anymore, but they can choose to have a close relationship with us. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what was I talking about there? Okay. The cost. So obviously it's going to cost time and energy. I started to talk about money, but like, let's take that out of the equation for now. What we're actually doing, if we're feeling uncomfortable and we don't want to sell, is it's costing us money, and it's costing us our time and energy, as well as those potential clients' time and energy. Now, you're actually then, it's costing both parties the one resource they can't get back, which is time. You know, I'm thinking like time with parents and kids being connected, time in birth and early stages and a lifetime of motherhood, right? If I think for myself, like time with, you know, the mastermind to be, like potentially could have been mastermind clients. If I don't sell this, then there's a lot of people out there, like potentially you guys, who then don't, you know, maybe you're spending a lot of your time and energy second guessing yourself or doubting what your choices are, or making decisions from a place of like, I should do this, that doesn't feel aligned with you. Maybe then you're still spending all of that time keeping yourself busy doing all these things, not actually selling to make the money that you will actually want to be making. You know what I mean? Like, there is a cost to us not selling. So I want you to get really clear about what the cost is. Now, what it then also reflects back to you is what the results are that you help your clients with. You know, it can be really easy to, I want to say it can be really difficult to, when you think like, oh, what do I help my clients with? It can be really difficult when you're in that place that is your genius zone, that just feels like basic information to you, but is life-changing for your clients. It can be really tricky to be like, okay, so what are those results that I create? So if you have a hard time working out what the results are that you create, I want you to think about what the cost is if you don't sell. Yeah. Now, the way we communicate or the way we sell we want to be communicating what it is we can help our people with, right? So this is kind of a little bit of a side note, but you might find like, so now you've got your offer, you know who your ideal client is. A lot of the time we're going to be spending in the mastermind is like sharing that with your people, selling to your people, right? Creating content, like understanding really clear messaging to your direct client. Yeah. And so you'll probably notice that there'll be ways that you have, there's like patterns of the way that you communicate and sell, right? Chances are you've probably been trained, like directly or indirectly, to sell the features of something and the how of something rather than the what, like rather than the results. So that could look like if I was selling my mastermind just focusing on like the features, or that would look like me saying, okay, so it's 5 months and it's $3,300. You can pay full full price or payment plan. We'll meet each week on Zoom for a coaching call, and you'll have full access into Voxer, and I'm going to be into Voxer 2 days a week coaching with you in addition to that coaching call, right? Like they're the features. You're like, okay, well that's great, but what are we doing? Like what's the point? Why do I want to be in there? You know, whereas what we want to do, and this is what we start to learn in the mastermind and the time that we have together, is we focus on what the results are, which then makes us so much more responsible for the work that we're doing, right? Anyone can piece together the features of a course or the features of a mentoring package, but what sets us apart and what makes us also unique is the results we help our clients create. So chances are you probably know just from what I've spoken about this week, some of the results that I help you with in the mastermind. And this is why I have no problem selling it, because I know what the cost is if the people who are right for this mastermind. Go, Anna.
Oh, I've just got a question, but finish your sentence.
Yeah, like I have no problem selling this because I know the people who are meant for this mastermind are going to get such awesome results, right? It looks like, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what we've been talking about this week. It looks like creating more money based on what it is that brings you pleasure, what it is you really desire. It looks like taking responsibility for your own stuff and unpacking it so you can get really clear around what it is you want, what it is you can offer, and making money doing that, right? It looks like being able to create a life that's filled with time and spaciousness and energy and pleasure for the things outside of your business, not like in spite of your business, but because of it. Yeah, like the mastermind is all about and the community connection too, right? You're going to be able to work with other people in this community. You can share ideas. This is the whole point of a mastermind. You can share ideas. You can also get so much value watching what someone else is moving through. Maybe they're in the launch phase of something and you're able to like get so many ideas and get coached on that before that's even a process that you're moving through, right? These are the results. So we want to be talking about our results when we're selling over the features. The features don't really mean as much. Usually the features are what someone wants to know at the end when they're already like, okay, this is me. This is meant for me. These are the results that I want to create in my life. This is exactly what I desire and what I want help with. Now let's look at the features like, oh, actually, so what does that look like? Okay, cool. We get coached once a week. Plus there's a couple of days extra in there to get coached. And there's bonuses when we sign up early and right? It's the difference between, who was it? I think it was Meg O'Sullivan I worked with a while ago, and she used the analogy of the difference between the vehicle and the destination. So if we're selling, if we want to be selling the destination, not the vehicle. So it'd be like, imagine if you wanted to go somewhere warm and relax and just, take it easy and feel really rejuvenated. If that's what you want, and I'm talking about, well, I can get you on a Jetstar flight to Bali, and it's the newest plane. They're all new planes. Look, you can't really get in what's called in-flight entertainment. So what I'll do is we'll hook you up to organize that ahead of time. Jetstar was not the best example to use. What's the one that flies to Bali where you get all the inclusions?
Not anymore, at least not from where we are. I
Oh,
had to learn the hard way last month.
yes, yes. I'm thinking of like,
Qantas you're thinking of, but
okay, well, let's imagine it's Qantas. Like imagine me selling you the Qantas flight to Bali, and I'm telling you can get alcohol on the plane, and you can also get extra leg room, and the flight leaves at like 3 different times a day, so there's different options for you and the kids, right? You're going to be like, okay. Or I said to you, well, I could hook you up either going to Bali or Fiji. We could get you like a resort so that it will be nice and warm, and like the kids will be entertained and you can relax in the sun. And like I don't know, I'm using like alcohol examples, but I want to say like there's bottomless cocktails all day long. We're not pissheads here, I know, but you know what I mean? There's a difference between selling the vehicle over selling the destination. We want to sell our people the destination. And in order to sell our people the destination, we need to be clear of what that destination is. We want to know what the results are that we provide for them. We want to know what the cost is if we do not sell, right? So that's just like a little offshoot to remember when you are selling. These are some of the things that we get better at doing in the mastermind. So coming back to like having all those thoughts, beliefs, ideas that make us feel really fucking uncomfortable selling. And then we have these like, I want to say like coping strategies to feel as though we are selling, but we're actually kind of going around it. We're not actually going through it, right? This discomfort around selling is going to be there until you unpack it and clear it and create a whole mindset shift around it. Like you cannot avoid that. If you want to make more money, you need to sell, right? You can't avoid the selling process. And chances are, if you have been trying to make more money, if you've been doing lots of work, if you've been like trying to learn different skills and all the things, and you're not making any more money, it's because you're probably doing all the things but selling. And as I said before, like the thing that is holding us back is just a feeling of discomfort, right? And I shouldn't say just, because there can be some like pretty big wounds there. So chances are, if you're going to sell something, you will have a physical response. Does anyone want to share with me? Like if I said to you right now, like you've got your offering, you know who your ideal client is, go and sell it. Like get onto an Instagram live right now and sell it. Like for some of you that might feel okay. But I want to know like what comes up for you. Does anyone want to share what comes up for them in the sense of a feeling of discomfort or embarrassment or fear of judgment or nervousness? Like what comes up there?
I think a little bit nervous if I was thinking of jumping on a live right now, but that's just trying to tune in why. I think that's mainly because I feel like I haven't even thought about what I would possibly say, or I actually haven't even thought about, the outcome and the results that I'm going to give them. I've been more focusing on the path, the vehicle. But if I had maybe 10 minutes to have a quick think about it, I think I would feel okay.
Yeah. Okay. And Sally, you're here. Do you want to share?
Yeah, well, I think when you said that, my first response was, I'm not ready yet. I haven't done the work yet.
So is there some like fear?
Yeah, I think the feeling is if I jumped on and did it now, it wouldn't be as authentic as it could be because I haven't done the work that I need to do to be fully in it.
Okay, yeah. All right. So that makes sense, because if we haven't like fully gotten into the offering, that's fair enough. I get that from where you come from. Maybe a better question to ask would be like, what is the strongest felt sense of discomfort that you've had when it comes to selling? Is it fear of judgment? Is it embarrassment?
For me, it's comparisonitis.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really easy to do, these days in this space. Like
Exactly.
everyone's on Instagram and everyone's fucking perfect, and and it's not real. But it's there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the big thing for me.
Yeah. So I feel like what's on the other side of comparisonitis, like not what's on the other side, but like the flavor of comparisonitis stems from like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
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 And so
So that's why I want to get really clear on like who I am, what my gifts are, and what I bring. And when I feel like I'm sort of fully in that energy,
yeah.
then everything else will just be flowing, because I'll be sort of coming from that place of just knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you're explaining there is like what you're shedding light to there is you've got this kind of feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough. So you're going to try and combat that by showing yourself that you are good enough. It's the same as like if we have fear of judgment that Danielle from high school will think that we're like over the top, we're going to like tone it down a little bit, right? We have these like coping mechanisms. Yeah. If it's like maybe there's this kind of like, oh God, I feel really uncomfortable speaking like my truth and like sharing what I have to offer, right? We might compensate by that by using language that's quite generic, that isn't unique to us, because it's almost like, well, I am selling, but I'm lessening. It's almost like I'm diluting that discomfort by making these compensations, by like, making it less I'm making it less uncomfortable by combating this fear, or combating this sense of like I'm not enough, or combating like these this sense of like fear of judgment. The thing is, then it's not us, right? It's not us being our authentic self. The beautiful example you shared, Sally, was like, basically, I'm not good enough. So you're going to be then trying to maybe show up as like more polished, perhaps, or like more, what's the word? Like where you're speaking a lot more like concisely, you're going to be censoring yourself, but your people don't want your censored version. They want your version.
That's why I feel like I'm not ready, because I haven't done that sort of behind the scenes work.
Yeah. And so this is what we'll end up doing. And this is how we can like just kick the can down the road, and we don't kind of end up selling what we want to sell because we're not showing up in our fullness, because we're avoiding the discomfort. So what we do is we move through that discomfort. We like identify what it is. We identify like what those feelings are in our body, and we start to work out how willing we are to sit with those temporary feelings in our body. Right? This will be something that I bring up in the mastermind the next 5 months. This is something that like my clients know this process like through and through. We have to keep doing it. Like I keep reminding them. We don't have to. And this is the part of the at the end where you decide like, am I prepared to move through these feelings in order to get to the other side, in order to create the results I desire, in order to create more money that I want to create for myself and my family, in order to work with these dream clients that I want to help, and in order to ensure that the people I can help don't have the cost of me not helping them. Right? And there probably will be some times, maybe like 10% of the time, I want to say, where you actually feel such a big like charge in your system that you're like, oh, actually, I'm not prepared to go here with that. And that's okay. What that does is that gives you become in a place of empowerment then, because it's not about this discomfort, and these thoughts that I have are actually steering me to censor myself and like not really share from an authentic place, or like not have me share the work I can help people with. Yeah. You're coming from a place of like, this feels really uncomfortable, and I get to choose whether I want to move through it or not. Yeah, I get to choose whether I want to be with this temporary feeling to create the results I desire for myself and my clients. And like, let's remember this discomfort, like it's a nervous system response, right? It's our sympathetic nervous system going like, oh my God, danger. This is unfamiliar territory. There could be the saber-toothed tiger around the corner, right? This is unfamiliar. For you to be able to sell in a really clear way that you are unapologetic about, chances are that might be new for you and your system. Yeah. And so this is why our body responds to it. It's our brain trying to keep us safe. It's not trying to help us achieve what we want to achieve. And so then our body reacts by feeling this discomfort to try and stop us from selling. Yeah. And so therefore, again, we're just kicking the can down the road. We're never quite getting there. Yeah. But the more we practice this, the more familiar it becomes to our system, the less intense that response is. This is why, like, the first time you do something, it feels really fucking terrifying. But the good news is you only have to do something the first time once, right? It feels less and less challenging, you know? So I hope that feels comforting to know that, like, that there is that discomfort, but that doesn't mean that because that's there, you're never going to be able to create the results that you want to create. It just means that, like, oh, okay, this is the ickiness here. This is what we get to move through. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you guys have any questions or any reflections?
I definitely have a aha moment today.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm definitely often not speaking, and I mean, you don't always have to speak your truth, you know. It's good to censor your opinion, but I feel like I definitely often like show up as a nicer version of myself and kind of sugarcoat things a lot, especially when I sell on social media, when I share tips. It's actually not often who I am and what I actually want to say.
Hmm.
And there's a fine line between, you know, being too opinionated, but I often like show up as a really nice version of myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then maybe doesn't get me the right clients, because the right clients who I'd like to have, they're the ones who actually want to hear, okay, let's do all the shit work here. Okay, let's crack you open so you can burst into tears now so you don't have to deal with that shit later, rather than sugar-coated in pink and rose color, because it's not really me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cass did a beautiful job of, like, helping me realize, almost like proving my point that I shared at the start of the week. Like, same for me, like, for so long, I've kind of been like tiptoeing around talking about desiring money, like I can help you make more money. Like, I know that to be true. And I can help you do it in a way that feels so good. And like, you fucking look at your life and you're like, oh my God, am I cheating? Like, I've had a client ask that before. Like, I feel like I'm cheating because this feels easy. Right. But I was pussyfooting around talking about, I can help you create more money. I can help you, like, do that, right? And in me actually moving through the discomfort of, like, oh, what are people going to think about me? Because I had the story, and I still probably do. It'll come up for sure. Like, well, I don't want people to think I'm money hungry. You know, I don't want them to think that it's just all about money. Like, and then I adore my clients. I like get so excited when my clients are achieving these results and they're doing things with their family because they can, and they're like booking their family holidays and like all this sort of stuff. Like, I get so emotional. So I know that that's not about that. So I have also moved through this process too. Like, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to share about money and like how fun it is to make more money. And like, therefore, you know, as Cass was saying earlier, she's like, well, I didn't realize that I was telling myself that I didn't want to make more money. It wasn't about the money. But hang on, like, you talking about more money has given me the permission to see that part of myself and like given me that permission. So you're exactly right, Anna. Like, when you can show up in like your truth, you know, and sell what you actually have to sell it your way, your unique way, that gives other people permission to, you know, find parts of themselves as well. You know, so many, like, I want to say, like, every mum wants to be the nice mum, right? We want to be like, oh, I'm not stressed and everything's wonderful and I'm always positive. And then it might feel really great when you see someone who you absolutely feel so inspired by, be like, fuck this, you know, or like whatever version of it is for you, be like, yes, she's my person. She gets me, you know? And I want to speak just before we wrap up about, like, I could talk about this all day long. I feel so passionate about this, but I want to talk about the frequency of selling. Like, I'm going to guess, do you guys on here, and like, tell me if you're watching the replay as well, if I'm wrong, but I want to say chances are you probably feel like you can't be selling every day. Do you feel a little bit of that? Like, oh, I need to, no, Anna's no. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sally says, yeah. Cause like a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I feel like I need to provide all this value, and I need to have a podcast, and I also need to run some free events, and I need to, offer some discounted in-person things. And like, I need to provide all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, like, absolutely, that is a great part of your strategy to offer value ahead of time. One of the best ways to know that you're going to get value from someone is to get value from them before you've even paid them, right? But when we hold ourselves back from sharing what we want to share, you'll have times you'll know in yourself of like, oh, I really want to like talk about this, or like my client's got this great result, but you think, oh, like I already jumped onto stories this morning and talked about my thing, and you hold back. What actually it makes me think of is like, imagine if your favorite coffee shop or your favorite clothes store, like you went to go in there, you got some money and you're like, yes, I'm going to take myself to my favorite clothes store and buy myself a new outfit to treat myself. And then you go there and they're closed, and they're like, well, we have been selling for the last 6 days straight. We should probably pull back a bit. We don't want to look too salesy. We don't want to look too pushy. You'd be like, the fuck? Oh, sorry, excuse my language. Yeah, you'd be like, what the hell? Right? What? And so it doesn't make sense. Like, if you had a brick and mortar store, then chances are you're going to be selling every day, right? You're going to be stocking the clothes in your store before you have people buy. Yeah. And it's the same when we have, like, when we can work online, we get to sell from here, from now, right? When it was the pandemic, we were living in Melbourne. It was such intense lockdowns. We could go outside for like a whole 60 minutes a day. And I had 2 of my little boys at home with me at the time. They were like 18 months, like 18 months, and then like 3.5. And so I would put them in the double stroller every day. This was part of our routine for the day. And we'd go on this big walk. They'd play in these trees nearby, and we'd go to our favorite coffee shop. And that was literally the highlight of my day. It makes me feel really emotional talking about it now, because I would go there and I would see this girl and we would have a conversation. And even though there'd be like a handful of people standing around, like, social distancing, we had a little community. It wasn't the same people every day. And I'd get this coffee, and sometimes I'd treat us with a yummy muffin. And I just thought, gosh, imagine if I showed up and they were closed and they just decided, we're not opening this week because we sold every day last week and we don't want to come across as too salesy. Like, that would actually be devastating. I want you to know, I'm sharing this story because I want you to know that when you're selling, you are actually providing a service, right? It's customer service. So I want you to remember that, because all of those, those thoughts that we've got in our head that we can absolutely work through and unpack to the point that we feel so good about selling. All of those stories, we can unpack all of those. And what's on the other side is like, we get to then sell as a service. We are providing a service, I think about this with my consult calls as well. Like, people come and have a consult call with me. I offer 60-minute consult calls to see if people want to come and work with me one-on-one, as well as the mastermind. And so part of that call is my service. I'm selling on that call because I'm letting them know what I have, in the sense of like, what results do you want to create? And if I can genuinely help them with that, I'm going to sell them. I'm going to say, jump into the mastermind. I have this for you. This is how it will benefit you. Ultimately, we get to the end of that call. My job is to be the coach and help them come up with a decision, not a commitment, but every single time I've had someone on a call, whether it's been a yes or a no for jumping into one-on-one work with me or the mastermind, Oh, actually, no one's done one for the mastermind yet. So if you want a consult call in the mastermind with me, please book it, because I'd love for you to be my first one. But usually we get to the end of that call and they've had some kind of breakthroughs along the way. I remember, I think this will be my last story because I see the time. We're going to wrap up. But I remember I had a call with someone last year and she so wanted to work with me one-on-one. She so wanted the things that I could help her with. And she really had been wanting to work with me for so long. And then when I shared the price with her, she was like, that's way too expensive. Right. And she was like almost annoyed. And I was okay with that. I was like, what do you mean by that? Right. And we got clear on what those stories were in her head. And ultimately, when I kind of asked a few curious questions, we got to the point where she said, oh, like what it really is I would feel so embarrassed if anyone knew that I was spending that kind of money on myself. Right. So it wasn't about my price tag was like just too expensive for what it was offering. It was that she was making her decision based on feeling embarrassed of what other people think. Yeah. And so me selling to her gave her this beautiful insight about like how she was letting other people affect her. She didn't go ahead with coaching. Like I said, like the call is about coming up with a decision and letting her know, like having you be really clear on like what you're basing your decision on and whether you're okay with that or not. Yeah. And so every single time I've been able to have these conversations with women, they've usually gotten something so like almost life altering out of it. So many aha moments, so many breakthroughs. You selling is helping people learn more about themselves as a start, you know? And then one final point here is to mention, like, and that story really brought it up for me, is you're going to want to protect yourself from what people think of you, right? This is why we're like, oh, I'm not really going to sell it too much because I don't want people to think X, Y, and Z about me. People are going to think stuff about you. What matters is like what your ideal clients think about you, and they can't be connected with you if you're not selling to them. You know, I don't doubt maybe there are people in my audience who, now that I'm talking about money, think that I'm salesy, you know, or think that I'm greedy or whatever it is. They're not my people, you know, and I think oftentimes it shows us more, it gives us more insight into what their beliefs are than our own. Yeah. So before we wrap up, does anyone want to share anything or have any questions? Sally's no. How about you, Cass? Did you want to jump in with anything?
I have two very important things. One, I finished my colouring in, and the other is my Connect pens now look great. And I tell you this because I was able to show up on this call as my authentic self because I have learnt to do the work on like being authentic. And how cool is that? And like maybe you'll think that that was weird and maybe you'll think it was not. But like I'm so excited to be in this space where you're like, do the authentic thing. And then for other people to be like, yeah, I'm going to be authentic and do my thing. And that's so exciting. So thank you.
Thank you. Like, this is so great. Can we please see that again? You didn't show it up for very long.
What would you like?
Picture. I didn't get to see the picture.
This is my Connect pens now. Great. Frankie, my son, is going to be very excited about that. And this is my colouring in.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I was like, Cass is on. She's doing the like active meditation here.
I am doing things. Yeah.
So great. And so great to see that you can show up like yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. All right, guys. So we have tomorrow. Tomorrow will be live coaching day. So I want you, if you can take today to, you know, get really clear on any of the things that you kind of haven't tied up yet. I want you to, if you haven't done the second part of yesterday's homework in Voxer, which was about creating a piece of content to share, like ultimately a piece of content to sell what it is that you have to offer. This is a draft. Know full well that you don't have to publish this. But I want you to start thinking about the next steps, right? Because I've given you kind of these foundations from here are these stepping stones that reveal themselves. Like, oh, well, actually, I don't know if I've written this thing correctly, or like this is when those thoughts and the uncomfortable feelings are going to be coming up, the stuff that we have to get to move through, the things that we get to move through to help us create the results we want to create. This is exactly what we'll dive into throughout that 5 months in the mastermind. Right. And this is why I'm, as I said earlier, I'm not afraid to sell the mastermind here with you, because I know what you'll be missing out on if you're not jumping in and you want to create these results. Yeah. So yeah, tomorrow jump in for some coaching. That's all I have to say. So yeah, as I was saying, so today, if there's anything that you've got time for, like basically I want you to bring as much of the stuff up to the surface as possible. So we've got some stuff to work on tomorrow. And if you've already got some stuff, great, let me know tomorrow. What else do I want to share with you? In the email that was sent yesterday with the replay, and I'll send it again today, is a link to the application form for the mastermind. But I would love it if you are planning on applying, just to let me know. Either send through that application today or let me know, because if you apply before the end of this week, you can get that 90-minute bonus. And just to let you know, we're also already coaching in the mastermind. So Kat, who's been in here, and Jillian, who's also in the chat, they're already in the mastermind. Okay, so there's already 25% of the spaces taken up. There's only 6 spots left. I haven't started launching publicly yet. I'm going to do that next week, but I want to make sure everyone who's been throughout this week with me gets those bonuses of the 90-minute call and jumping in straight to Voxer. I want to make sure that the people who follow their desires and jump in immediately get all the bonuses along the way. As I said as well, there's also going to be that accelerator week where we're workshopping out all this stuff that you're learning this week. So, you know, like Anna and Sally, you're like, oh, I kind of know the framework, but like, how do I then start to talk about it in terms of like results and things like that? That's what we'll do on the accelerator week. Yeah, so Voxer, between now, we've got about 4 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks until we start officially, plus the accelerator week, plus a 90-minute one-on-one session with me. It's the bougie VIP sesh where you get dressed up and you put on your lippy and you grab yourself something yummy in a cup, and we feel fabulous and we do it together. All right, my loves. That's it from me to you. And I'm going to stop talking right now. I could talk about selling and what we can work through forever, but that's it for now. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.